back to the Arroyo podcast, and I'm excited to be here. My name's Griffin.
Oh, you're Griffin.
Yeah.
I'm Dakota. You weren't here last week.
I wasn't here.
Well, I think technically it was 2 weeks ago, just to be clear.
Yeah,
That's true.
full transparency.
Full transparency for the audience. And I'm Josh, by the way. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about today? Why are we even here?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
What are we rusty?
It's a different vibe right now.
Yeah.
We're recording
Well,
a
this
little
is a
later
night
at
recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally we record in
It's
the
good.
afternoon.
It's a
I
night
like
shoot.
this vibe. I have way more energy at night than I do in the afternoon.
Interesting.
I'm
yeah.
a morning person.
It's
and a
3
night-
a.m. right now.
You know, they say, are you a morning person or are you a night person? I'm a morning person and a night person. I'm not an afternoon person.
Yeah. Yeah.
You,
no, I
you
could
meet
attest
me
to
from
that.
one-
1:30 to 4:30, and I'm
Yeah,
dead.
you've got a nasty.
And that's when we
attitude,
usually do
man.
the podcast. So that's
I know.
interesting.
So just for reference,
Yeah.
if you're watching this podcast, you're seeing me at 60% capacity
Jeez.
because that's when you guys are available.
Wow.
Whoa.
Can't
Yeah.
wait to see what happens tonight.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
You're not
It's
going to
gonna
mention
get
the,
off the rails.
You're not going to mention the Forge again, are you?
No,
Jeez.
we're not going into Christian movies.
This is the Forge Part 2 review.
We're gonna
There
do
was a
critical
podcast-
analysis.
There was a podcast that came out years ago. I didn't watch it, but they watched the movie. I think it was the movie Cars. Over every podcast, they just only watched the movie Cars and talked about it.
Really?
They did
It's like
like
a Cars.
they did like
podcast.
50 episodes, and they just
Wow.
watched Cars
That's incredible.
50
And
times.
they just analyzed
And they
from all
reviewed
these
it?
different angles.
Yeah.
We
There's
should
a
do that
lot-
with the Forge.
Yeah.
But there's a lot we can learn from Cars. That's a
Well,
that's a
life is a
phenomenal-
highway.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to drive it all night long.
But by the 40th episode, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to watch this."
That's a
movie
great
again."
experiment.
It is a good experiment.
Yeah. Lightning McQueen.
We
Good
got speaking of cars.
Yeah.
We have an Elon Musk video.
Whoa.
Do you like that? Was
Good
that
transition.
Good,
That was a
what?
clean
We got an
transition.
Elon Musk video we're gonna react.
That was a
to.
great way to that was
So,
a soft
speaking
transition.
of cars, the maker of electric cars, Teslas, Elon Musk. We're gonna react. Let's see.
Thanks for
what's going on.
setting that clip up.
Culturally Christian. I grew up Christian. I mean, I was Anglican, was baptized, went to Sunday school. Maybe this will make me even more enemies. But I have trouble sort of believing all these stories, these religious stories. But obviously a lot of people do.
Do you believe there's a power higher than people?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot we don't know. We don't know why does reality exist? Where did it come from? Where are the aliens?
Whoa.
Culturally Christian. I grew up Christian. I mean, I was Anglican, was
Okay.
baptized.
That was the video.
Yeah.
Maybe this will make me even more enemies. But I have trouble.
So
Immediate thoughts on that?
Elon
There's a lot
Musk.
there. Aliens, cultural Christianity, believing the validity of biblical stories. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's just do it in the order he said it. Let's
Yeah.
maybe talk first about
He said, "I'm a cultural Christian,
Christianity.
He was baptized at a young age.
Baptized.
Anglican."
Let's start there, and then maybe we could talk about. He kind of brought up the question of where does reality?
Where are the
come?
reality?
And then he brings up aliens. Those are three great topics for our pod today. Elon,
Yeah,
thank you.
Shout out for the.
creating an
They
outline
are.
for our pod. Cultural Christianity. Any first thoughts on that in regards to how he framed it, and then just that topic in general? What are your guys' thoughts?
You don't hear that much cultural
I was
Christianity.
gonna
I hear
say
a
that.
lot of culture. I'm a cultural Muslim. I'm a cultural Jew. Right.
Mm,
I feel like those are more used in the cultural sense.
Right.
sure.
You don't really hear "I'm a cultural Christian" very much. I'm trying to think about why that is.
He's bringing it back.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah.
I think a big thing with cultural is it has to do with location. So cultural Jews, they have an origin. It's Israel. It's Jewish, right? So cultural Jew, it's very tied to a
Ethnocentric.
very specific
Yeah.
set of people, right?
Sure.
A Jewish people. Islam, Middle East, like it's tied to a very specific set of people. Christianity is global and
Yeah.
isn't necessarily tied to a specific group of people. That's why you don't really hear, I'm a cultural Christian very
Yeah.
much. What does cultural Christian even mean? How would you define
Well,
it?
and I think there are a lot of flavors of Christianity too, and it's hard to define exactly even what a cultural Christian is because I don't think it's almost counterintuitive. It's like you can't really be by the true definition of a Christian, a cultural Christian. There are ways in which you could be influenced by Christianity growing up, and that's probably just what he meant. Probably just nitpicking some of the ways of defining it, but you can't be a real follower of Jesus and then also like frame that within,
Yeah.
oh, but I am just culturally participating in the practice of following Jesus, but I'm not actually following Jesus. I get what he's trying to say, but I actually think it's less common for people to be, it statistically is less common for people to be cultural Christians or to participate in going to church, but not really know Christ.
Is he's using the word cultural Christian?
He's saying he grew up in a church. He was baptized at a young age.
I think he's actually representing a very large percentage of the American population.
You think so?
In their beliefs. Because when he says he's a cultural Christian, I don't even think he's saying he goes to church.
Yeah.
Right? From what I understand, I don't think Elon goes to church at all.
Not
He said he
currently.
grew up in church and was baptized at a young age.
Yes, but like today, he doesn't go to
No.
church, right? I mean, the dude's working. He tries to act like he works 30 hours a day. It's like, Elon, that's not possible. There's 24 hours in a day. Like, stop. It's all that hype from all the tech CEOs. But like, I think the big idea here is that he's saying there are parts of Christianity that I grew up with, and there are certain values and beliefs that come from the Bible and Christianity that are inherent, especially to being the West and America being founded with a lot of those values with our founding fathers. I think he's just saying, hey, I like a lot of the values, and they kind of guide a lot of my life, but also it's cultural Christianity. So he doesn't actually have a real relationship with Christ. He doesn't, like you said, follow Christ. And there are obviously some parts of Christianity that he does disagree with and doesn't hold to and doesn't want to live by. And I think that is where most of our country is most people would concede, yeah, I think Jesus was a good teacher. I think Christianity and the Bible has some good things to say, but it's not it's not my ultimate authority. It's not, a personal relationship that I have with God. It's just like, it's like we've said this, I think, on the program a few times. I'm going to start calling that a program.
On the program?
On the program. It's cherry picking the Bible and Christianity. I like this one, but I don't like this one. Or it's like going to Target and trying on some different jeans. I like this pair, but I don't like that pair. But true Christianity is saying, like, I take the whole thing. I follow Jesus fully. Right?
I don't think the thing he doesn't recognize is the sin part. That's the part I don't think he agrees with or recognizes. He was on another podcast. I think it was the Babylon Bee podcast.
Yeah.
And they straight asked him, "Do you want to be saved by Jesus?"
Yeah.
And he said, "I mean, if Jesus is going around saving people, sure, I'll take it."
Sure.
Like, that was his approach to it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if he really
Well,
loves
they
me and
whipped
saves
that
me.
opportunity too, though, on that podcast. Not
Yeah,
that
they didn't
I love
present-
the Babylon Bee, and they're great at what they do. Comedy, evangelism, terrible. I mean, they were asking it in a really sarcastic way.
Yeah, it was
in a very
jokey.
roundabout, jokey way.
Yeah.
It was honestly pretty bad, and I was like, man, I wish I could talk to Elon. But like, I just think what I'd love to challenge people like Elon with is like, okay, well, you're saying you like a lot of what Christianity teaches. But the reality is okay, like, I think he would probably say he's agnostic. He doesn't really know.
It's probably what he would say.
I think that's what he would say. But what I would just challenge those of you that are maybe listening that are agnostic or you're not sure, maybe you wouldn't use the word cultural Christian as like a cultural Christian, but there would be parts of your life where like, yeah, I identify with some of what, Jesus said, but there are also some teachings of what come from the Bible that I don't like. I would just challenge you, like, you can't like just kind of take a few pieces here and there and then discard the rest if you reject the person from which it all comes from. So you can't reject Jesus and then say, well, but I still want some of what he said, right? It's either you really believe who he is and what he said, or you don't, right? I mean, that's the whole classic, C.S. Lewis trilemma where he says, he's a liar, he's a lunatic, or he's a Lord, right? I mean, if Jesus was a complete lunatic because he's claiming to be God and he really wasn't, he's just a crazy person, then why would you take any of his teachings? But if he's a pathological liar, right, and he's claiming to be God and he's truly not, why would you listen to any of his teachings? But if he's truly Lord, then you got to take the whole thing. And so I love to challenge people with that. Don't take a little bit. Either take the whole thing or don't take it all. And if you don't believe that life has any purpose and that this is all just an accident, then don't pretend like you could have morals. Because if this all is just an accident and we're all just kind of like random pieces of matter that evolved over time, then like life is purposeless, there is no meaning, there are no morals, and live however the heck you want. And who are you to say that it's wrong to rape or murder or do anything wrong? Like, it happens in the animal kingdom all the time. If it happens between other humans, what's the big deal, right? And so I don't know. I like to like push people like that. Like,
Yeah.
take one side or the other, but don't do this middle ground, because that's actually, I don't think that's a position that's actually filled with much integrity. I think that's kind of
Jesus talks about lukewarm Christians,
Yep.
right? It's kind of worse than choosing a side.
Yep.
you know? He said he's Anglican. What's Anglican?
that's like the Church of England.
Got it.
Yeah. So, and actually, one of my favorite theologians of all time, J.I. Packer. He's Anglican. So, the Anglicans are great.
Yeah.
There isn't much I disagree with about the Anglicans, other than they baptize babies. That's about it. And maybe a few other little things here and there.
That's why Elon was baptized.
All the core tenets.
Yeah, so he was baptized as a
faith.
child.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but and that's even like, I mean, we weren't talking about going into child baptism today, but I think that is one of the problems with child baptism, is it can give people this idea of like, oh yeah, I was baptized when I was a baby, so like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a cultural Christian. Like, I'm not sure if God's real. I don't really follow him, but like,
I did the check boxes.
when I was younger,
Yeah.
I'm good. I had my first communion. Like, that's super problematic. Right?
That is. I always get so surprised that people think that that's like, that's how you get in, Like, that's how you get into the family of God. You just drink some drink and a little
People are
cracker
ju-
and dunk her into some water, and then that's it.
They're just
Like,
that's
nothing
what
you
they're
don't gotta
taught.
believe.
Yeah.
This always blows my mind.
Mhm.
But and what did he say next? So he said he's a cultural Christian, and then he
Cultural
touched on.
He asked, where does
Um,
reality even come from?
Oh yeah, because Tucker asked him, "Do you believe in higher power?" He said yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of unanswered questions,
And that's why I kind of talked about him. He's probably agnostic, I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Which
Is
is,
there anything to say about reality? I mean,
where does it even come from? And well, one of the things he said, which I thought was really cool, coming from a person that smart, he said there's a lot that we don't know.
And I think he's right.
And he
That's
is right.
there is an element of faith involved with what we believe. We have a limited view of God revealing himself through Jesus Christ, and there's this combination of our conviction about who he is and also our faith and believing in the unseen and having a sense of confidence for what we hope for. But there are certain things that we can't completely answer.
Yeah.
I
There's a
think that's-
mystery to it.
Totally.
Not a lot of people are at peace with that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good question. I've always wondered is how, or I guess how, he's a very logical person,
Yeah.
probably the most logical person in the world.
Yeah, he's up there for sure.
Can a logical person like that have faith? And how do you speak to a logical person like that about something like faith? Because to a very logical person, faith doesn't make sense. You know? I'm a logical person.
Yeah.
Like I definitely lean towards that versus the emotional
Being
part.
more
You know?
emotional.
And I feel like a lot of people come to Christ through the emotion.
True.
And not a lot of people find Christ intellectually first.
Mhm.
And I feel like a guy like that, that's how you have to get someone
Yeah.
like him. So how do you approach that?
Well, I think just going back to his question, where does reality come from? I think, first of all, recognizing that it did have to come from somewhere, right? And the very question that he posed recognizes that there has to be a source, right? Like, everything that exists has a cause, right? So there's a house that we're in right now. It had a cause. It had a builder. Everything that's ever existed has had a cause. So the question is what caused the universe? You have to have a cause. So the question is what is more likely, right? Do you think it's more likely that it was some type of materialistic cause, or do you think it is an intelligent cause? I mean, it's the whole idea of intelligent design versus just kind of a random big bang
accidental.
that came from. And basically, what you have to have at the end of the day is there has to be some kind of eternal constant that was the cause.
Yeah.
So the question is what do you think is more likely? Do you think it's just some type of eternal matter that randomly combusted and exploded and over the course of millions of years evolved into what we have today? Or do you think it's more likely that it's the eternal constant of an actual intelligent being that spontaneously, hence the whole idea of the Big Bang, spontaneously, as Genesis 1 says, in the beginning God created and actually intelligently and intentionally designed everything to be as it is? I think personally that an intelligent designer logically makes more sense. When you look at the complexity of the universe, whether it's the complexity of the human eye or the complexity of oh man, if our Earth was just off this little bit, like off its tilt, literally we'd be frozen or we'd be burned by the sun. I mean, there's so much complexity to human life, and I just even in going into our own DNA and just it's everywhere we look, and I just have a really hard time believing that was an accident. And I think somebody like Elon Musk, who himself is a creator, that literally has created some of the most incredible machines in all of human history.
And that doesn't happen on accident.
It doesn't happen on accident. He should know that more than anybody.
That's so true.
Dude, you're a creator.
Yeah, you know how
you
complex
don't assume
these
that
things
all
are.
the incredible inventions that have come out of your mind happened by accident. So why would you think the universe in which we live, which is far more complex than anything he's made, why would you think that is by an accident? And so I think logically it just makes more sense. There has to be an eternal constant that was the cause. And I think it's more reasonable for it to be an intelligent creator rather than a random materialistic process.
But this is why people have to not only come to the conclusion logically, but they have to have their hearts open up spiritually to the reality of who God is. So you can logically deduce that, we're not here on accident, and the irreducible complexity that we see in the world and in the universe and in humanity is that's enough to go, wow, has to come from something, and to see the cause and effect of it all. But you can look at that, and most people who have a hard heart will assess all of that information and go, oh, well, I have problems with X, Y, and Z, and then they close themselves off from the possibility of there being a creator God. Right. And so it's hard because you can hand somebody the information in the same way that Jesus did. He would reveal himself and he would present who he was, but not everybody's going to accept the reality of God or even the possibility that he is God.
What you just said reminded me, I want to read this verse real quick. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 14 and 16. It says, "But their minds were made dull. Yeah. For to this day the same veil remains when the old covenant is read. It has not been removed because only in Christ is it taken away. Even to this day when Moses is read, a veil covers their hearts, but whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away." So there's this idea that there's this veil. There's this curtain in front of people's hearts that is keeping people from seeing Christ. And the only way that people can see Christ is that veil is literally taken away so that they can meet Christ face to face. And at the end of the day, I don't even think it's intellectual, and I don't even think it's emotional. Ultimately, it's a spiritual problem.
It is.
Is your blindness being healed? I mean, it goes back to that amazing song, Amazing Grace, how sweet the song, right? I once was blind, but now I see, right? It's that whole idea of every single person is spiritually blind. We're spiritually sick. We need to be healed. We need to be able to see. And this gets into some of the details of even the process of salvation. I think we need to be able to see Christ before we could even believe in Christ. And us being able to even see Christ before we can believe in him is actually a gift from God that he gives us. And I do think, the Bible says this in Acts chapter 17, that God allows every single person to be born in a specific time in a specific place so that they might find their way to him. And so I think God allows people to be born at certain times and places so that they could be most likely to find their way towards him, so that they could have that moment in their life where the veil is kind of pulled away and they can see Christ and they can choose whether to believe in him or not. And so I think ultimately, we can give intellectual arguments, and there's a place for it, and it's important for people to grow in their faith and their certainty in the faith, and to even help people come to the place where they could even come to faith. I think it's all important. Yeah. But I think, like you said, when it's all said and done, there is a veil. It needs to be taken away. And it's the power of the gospel that takes away that veil, and I think allows people to be saved and accept the grace and forgiveness of Jesus.
Yeah, agreed.
So
it has me thinking about Thomas, because when Thomas asked Jesus to see his scars, because he wanted to see for himself to believe. Yeah. And Jesus' response to him was, "Blessed are those who believe without seeing." Mm-hmm. And there's a blessing in stepping out by faith with the information that you do have, because we actually have a lot of revelation and information about who Jesus is. Mm-hmm. And historically, the archaeologically.
Yeah.
There is science that reveals in creation who God is. There's enough if you're looking to logically come to a comfortable place where it's like, I don't know this for sure, but I have enough to make the leap of faith to go. Because faith is what it's confidence in what we hope for, and it's a belief in the unseen. It's the assurance of the unseen.
That's Hebrews 12:1, by the way.
Yes, and so that's faith is stepping out and believing in the unseen, and with a confidence and a heart that has a hopefulness towards the truth of God. And so,
and to quote another part of Hebrews 12, you said, faith is assurance about what we do not yet see. And another part of Hebrews chapter 12 says that faith also knows this, that God rewards those who earnestly seek Him. The Bible also says in the book of James that draw near to God and He will draw near to you. So I just think, like, if you're listening, no matter where you're at in your journey, faith doesn't mean you have it all figured out. But here's what faith does mean. You've begun to go on the journey where you're exploring God, you're seeking God, and here's the promise. When you do that, you'll find out that He's already been seeking you. He already loves you. He's already pursued you. He's died for you. He's risen again for you. And God rewards those who earnestly seek Him. It's a promise. And here's the incredible thing. When you begin to seek Him, not only do you realize that He's already been seeking you, but when you seek Him, you realize there actually is, like you said, a lot of evidence for His existence. Now, faith does mean that you don't have it all figured out. Faith does mean there is things that you're not going to see until the other side of eternity, but it doesn't mean that you don't see anything. It doesn't mean that you don't understand anything. Biblical faith is not the same as blind faith.
That's
limited. Really important. Like, believing in Jesus doesn't mean you have to be a dummy. It doesn't mean you have to turn off your brain or be illogical. There is a lot of evidence for the reliability of the Bible. There's a lot of evidence for the historical reliability of the resurrection. There's a lot of evidence for there being a God that created the universe. We talked a little bit about that earlier, about how an intelligent designer is probably the most reasonable and logical explanation for the origin of the universe. So, like, there's a lot of evidence and a lot of good lines of logical thinking that point towards there being a creator, and specifically Jesus Christ being that creator. But when it's all said and done, there is a leap of faith. But it's not a blind faith. It's a biblical faith.
Right.
It's a faith where I know what I know, but I know what I don't know, and I'm willing to take that leap. And I think with somebody like Elon, if I was talking to Elon right now, I'd say don't use that as a cop-out. Don't just say, oh, well, there's so much we don't know. Sure, there's a lot we don't know, but there's also a lot you can know. And based off what you know and don't know, make a decision. Don't call yourself a cultural Christian. Either throw it all out or take it all in. But don't be lukewarm, because Jesus doesn't let you do that. With His claims of divinity, who He said He was, you cannot take some of it and then, it's like you have to believe who He really is, or just you're an accident, and just live life however you want, moment to moment. But don't try to take the things about Christianity you like and then take it's like really what it is. It's saying, let me chop the bottom of this tree down, but pretend like it can still bear fruit and I can enjoy the fruits of it. It's like, no, you can't take away the divinity of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, which is literally pulling up the roots of a tree, and then expect to eat the apples that come out of the tree. You can't do that. Right. Jesus' life, death, resurrection is the root of Christianity. If you take that out, don't expect to eat the fruit. Sorry. So
that was good.
Sorry, Elon, I love you, but you don't live in the Bay Area anymore. But come see us.
That'd be crazy.
We'll even let Tesla be a sponsor of this.
I don't think he wants to come back to California anytime soon.
Well,
based off of his
actually, I think Gavin, that he had him. I know he left, but I know that they talked, and he got a few more. He got
Did
a
they?
few factories coming out here, I think.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Really? I think so.
I didn't
really?
know that.
I think so. Yeah.
I thought he was gone for good.
Well, their base is now in Texas.
Austin.
But they're still, I think, doing some smaller things here.
Yeah.
Well, the Fremont is still
the
going.
Fremont one's huge.
That's the biggest manufacturer.
We
And
love
SpaceX
you,
too,
Elon.
I
We
think,
want you
is
to
still
come to
here.
Christ.
Yeah.
We
He's
hope
in
you see
Texas,
this. This show is now sponsored by Tesla and Prime.
And Prime.
Put
Shout
that up
out,
there.
baby.
There we go.
That's amazing.
Oh, the other thing that he said, and now
Aliens.
we're really going to go down the rabbit hole.
This is kind of off the deep end.
aliens. Thoughts on aliens?
Well, here I have a question for you.
No. Yeah, you want to do a follow-up?
There's no way to
Before we
soft
go-
transition
Before
into
we go down the rabbit hole.
So anyways.
Dakota
Oh, no,
has
this is
one
a question
more
about
serious
aliens.
question.
It's a serious question about
Oh,
aliens.
I love this.
Yeah.
If aliens,
Griffin. Just a
Oh
little
my
background for our listeners. Ever since the podcast started, Griffin's been waiting for us to talk about aliens.
I haven't, but that's great.
No, I actually been looking forward to this. I knew this would come one
Yeah.
day.
my question is,
And I'm glad
if
that Elon has led us
aliens,
to this.
It
if
is an
aliens-
interesting topic.
It is
though.
a very interesting topic.
it is,
Especially with
they
certain
were kind of
revelations
proven
that have
last
unfolded.
year, right?
They
last
were.
year.
And don't you love how it was kind of like just like, whatever.
Yeah.
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 No big
But
deal.
Elon said he doesn't.
UAPs?
I just literally
He
watched
doesn't
a
believe
clip.
in it.
He doesn't believe in aliens.
Yeah.
He said we
Because
haven't
they're
had-
not aliens. That's why.
They're demons.
They're demons.
They're demons.
But all that aside, if there were actually aliens like
Yeah.
ET type
Sure. That
souls,
weren't demons.
right? Or not demons, just aliens, just like living organisms that have
Yeah.
minds and
Sure. Or whatever.
Like
apparent
advanced beings.
or they can go
souls.
or
What?
whatever. I don't
I'm
know.
sorry?
That was my alien noise.
Cutting that out.
What?
I'm just kidding.
We're going to abduct
We'll
you.
cut-
Dropping your phone.
That's the second time he's dropped his phone. It's probably the aliens making him do it.
Okay, if there was an intelligent life that
Sure.
had a mind and what seemed like a
That
soul,
had an intelligible language, or it was like,
Okay,
I don't know
stop
why.
doing
Stop
that.
doing
It's
that.
a terrible imitation.
would that question your faith at all?
not at all. Not
No?
even
No,
a
honestly, it
little
would
bit.
probably enforce my faith.
Because would you go, oh, they're creations of God as well?
Well, here's
If they
the
seem
deal.
like they
Their
have a soul, that's the thing.
I would
That's the-
say
That's the thing.
they're
they
most
they seem like they have a
likely-
mind and they seem like they have a soul. Would that change your perspective?
No.
Would they be children of God?
I
Okay,
think
God
they would
created
be.
angels. God created demons.
True.
God's a creative God. So
Yeah.
do we really think that God only created us and only demons and angels? That's it? He's never created any other being ever in all eternity?
Whoa.
We really think God?
Oh, you're going
Whoa.
a different direction with this.
So my thought
Well,
is,
Leviathan.
yeah. So,
Created Leviathan.
I mean,
Dragon.
I would actually be surprised if there weren't other beings in other dimensions
Whoa.
Yeah. Or planets.
or planets or whatever.
Well,
Because God, now
This
I would
is
also
you
wouldn't be surprised if he
assuming-
hadn't. Because here's the thing, God is creative and all powerful, so he can create anything and anyone wherever he wants. But he's also self-sufficient. He does not need you and me. He does not need anything or anyone else. Within the Godhead, within the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, within the Trinity, there is unity and community. So God is self-sufficient. He doesn't need anyone. He's content within himself.
yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he never created anything else. But also, he's creative and all-powerful, so I also wouldn't be surprised if he created
See-
a whole bunch of other stuff, too. So either way,
You're assuming the possibility that God created aliens. That's what you're saying.
And it
Directly.
actually, it's kind of
I'm
biblical
assuming that he did
in
or
the
didn't.
sense of
I don't think he did.
I'm just saying whether he
I
did or
think-
didn't doesn't affect my faith, because my faith
Right,
is in the
right, right.
resurrection
Right.
of Jesus and God being creative
Like if
and
you-
God being all self-sufficient.
Right.
I think it could go either way.
yeah.
So
If you had to guess, though, would it be God creating aliens, or would it be aliens being kind of distorted
Versions of
versions of humanity? Like you kind of
honestly, it
go
could be
into the
that.
Genesis 3,
Yeah,
you know, the
Nephilim,
Nephilim,
mating
the
with
fallen
the women.
angels, interbreeding.
Well, I think I'm like 100% sure that that's a thing, personally.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
Yeah. I think that's how
I think that's what all these
Neanderthals-
UFO sightings are that people have been reporting.
Demons?
It's demons.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they're spiritual manifestations of something evil.
Yes.
And I like
Yeah.
whether or not it's an action, like there's something. I mean, the amount of reports that there have been, even in Congress, we had congressional hearings about it
It's
this
pretty
last
crazy.
year.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's kind of legitimate. It's made it a more legitimate topic for people to discuss.
All I say is when the presidents
But-
are alive, when I've seen Trump and Obama asked about UFOs, they never say no, and they kind of give, like, oh, even Trump more recently, I saw him say, oh, the pilots have seen some pretty crazy stuff. Is basically
Yeah.
what he said. So
yeah, I don't think they're out
there's
of.
stuff out there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's aliens from another
Such a
planet
funny-
coming to abduct us.
Stop doing
But-
that.
but what I'm
Imitation.
saying- But what I'm saying is this: I do think there's something out there, and I think it is spiritual.
Right.
I think it's demonic, and it could be a hybrid, like the Nephilim talked about in Genesis, where it's like kind of a hybrid of spiritual beings and human beings being melded together and being like this destructive evil
Well,
thing.
and God describes that generation as an evil and adulterous generation
that's
as
why he
well.
flooded 'em.
And that's a part of why the flood happened. There was
Sure.
like it wasn't just
Giants
a
roaming the
spiritual,
earth,
sinful cleansing. It was this interbreeding that was basically happening during that time where God was disrupting the disorder that was happening. But there are a lot of kind of theories around that. It's like the reason why Noah was deemed as kind of clean in his generation wasn't just because he was righteous before God, but because him and his family weren't a part of that. Basically,
Weird
Got it.
stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So any closing thoughts on aliens? If you had to guess right now, Dakota, right now, aliens, yes or no?
Are they real?
I'm not talking about the spiritual being thing that we were just talking about, but like in other planets, whatever.
No,
Yes or
I don't think
There's
so.
not-
However,
there's no evidence.
I don't think so. But however, I think there's going to be living
Disclosure.
organisms on different planets.
Okay.
Sure.
I don't think they'll be intelligent.
Griffin?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
I agree with that. I think that there definitely are aliens that are deceptive. I think that a part of the deception of the
So
enemy.
you're going full Men in Black right now. They live among us.
I think.
But I'm just joking.
No, I just think it's a part of spiritual warfare.
Yeah. So you're going
I mean,
the demon route. the
I'm
demons.
going more. I think it's they are spiritual evil entities and
Sure.
manifestations
Yeah.
of that.
I agree.
So
As we were talking about aliens, one of the random things that popped into my head, it made me think of Lord of the Rings. It made me think of all the elves that were cursed by the ring, and they were, the black
Came orcs.
hooded, evil people that were a part of the Nazgul.
Oh,
And,
yes.
Yeah.
That made me think of that, and I was like, you know what? I don't know why. Are aliens kind of related to that? I feel like they're kind of alien type beings. in
Maybe.
the Lord of the Rings.
They're more of the Nephilim, actually, right? Because they were once pure, but then they got
They got kind of corrupted.
corrupted with
Well, it just made
wrong
me think.
DNA. and
We were talking
became something
earlier
else.
about the podcast that did Cars reviews. Watched Cars 5. Maybe we need to do a Lord of the Rings podcast episode.
Watch a
and
3-hour
draw
movie?
Spiritual parallels to the movie.
I think
From
this is
the-
just
that's
an
good.
excuse for you
I
to
actually-
watch Lord of the Rings.
It is.
I
That would be
guess.
a really long. You know what though? I bet you no one's ever done a full Lord of the Rings
I guarantee you someone has.
review. And
Do you know how avid?
No, but drawn
crazy-
it to biblical like
parallels
storylines and
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know if there's been
Maybe.
a Christian pod that's done that. We should look into that. If we haven't, we need to corner that market.
That's true.
You're so funny.
I took a class in high school where we had to do that, but we had to do it with different worldviews. So Lord of the Rings, we did to Christianity. Star Wars, we did to cosmic humanism, and some other.
I think
movie.
I was in that class. Was that with
Chuck.
Chuck
It was
Fleming?
Chuck, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the movie review.
Yeah,
whatever
and then you relate it
class.
to some worldview.
His classes were the best, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was
Like
fun.
all work that's like not work.
Back to the alien thing.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, we're
They-
bringing it back. Okay.
No, I just
I
said
thought we
remember
were
this. I
safe.
just said remember this because
Okay, Revelation.
a lot of the stories that I've heard about people who have had like encounters with aliens is they say that, and I sound like a crazy person talking about this. right now. Aliens. We can clip that. Is that when when a Christian has an encounter,
Yeah.
they rebuke the alien or whatever. I think it's a demon or some kind of spiritual evil thing, and they rebuke it in the
Actually,
name of Jesus,
yeah.
and it flees from them.
You know what's actually very interesting?
Isn't that
I don't know if you
That
guys
is
have heard
wild.
this before, but there was actually a study done on people that have had UFO,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
alien type encounters, and they did a study on what percentage of those people were involved in occult or satanic practices, and it was like
Ooh.
75%.
Unbelievable,
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean,
but believable.
if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is
So
all
people
speculative.
that are involved with demonic
Yes.
worship, Ouija boards, doing weird stuff that's demonic, and then they're all
Witchcraft.
suddenly being abducted by aliens and saying that they, abused them or whatever. Well, that's demonic. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And so there's a spiritual realm, and I think it's like what Ephesians 6 says, our war is not against just flesh and blood, but against the spiritual, like rulers and authorities in the heavenly places. And there are times where the spiritual does cross over into the physical and does reveal itself. And
I think the spiritual is constantly crossing over to the physical.
well, no, in like a physical, visible way,
Right.
where you actually see
It's
the
manifesting.
demon. That does not happen as commonly. And the reason why it doesn't happen as commonly, which I think we've talked about before, is because the devil is primarily a deceiver and an accuser. So he doesn't want to reveal himself because he doesn't want people to know who he is and what he's doing when he's doing it. Because if he did that, then he wouldn't be deceived.
Well, he disguises
But
himself
people
as
that
an
already
angel
are
of light.
aware of him and are worshiping him, he does reveal himself to them. And demons do reveal themselves to them because they're obviously aware of them and they're worshiping them. And so I think in those situations, it is more likely that they reveal themselves.
So, do you think we're going to get some alien disclosure in the next year? What do you guys think?
if
Next
there is
year?
any to
In the
be
next year.
disclosed, I think that is possible. But we'll see.
I mean, if we do, I think that's part of the end times. To be honest, I mean, I don't
Don't
want to
bait
go
me.
there,
Don't bait me.
but
Yeah,
that's
don't bait him.
Don't
I'm not
bait
gonna
him.
bait- I'm actually not trying to bait you, but if aliens really are revealed in that way,
That would be part of the great deception that Jesus
I think it
talks
could
about.
be. Yeah, I think it really could be.
Wow.
Because
There's a chance.
And Matthew 24, part
Oh,
of the
wow. Now
birth
we're diving
pains leading up to the return of Christ, which is something we shouldn't be afraid of, but as believers, we should be excited about the return of Jesus because that's what we're living for. But the great deception could be a part of that.
You could.
It's very possible.
But
Whether you
it
think
also
it's
could be
probable or
multiple.
not,
It could be.
be
It could be a lot
And
of.
whether that
different
happens
things.
in a year or 100 years.
Yeah.
It's like 1 month. Sure. See that?
Two-
6 months?
6
Yeah,
months.
that's probable.
Yeah.
1 year.
1 year? Decade.
What about 2 years?
Yeah,
sure, I don't see why not.
It's feasible. If you don't know what we're referencing right now, just watch The Office. You'll pick it up eventually.
Exactly.
Any other thoughts on Elon Musk, aliens, the existence of the universe, cultural Christianity, or any other topics we want to meander through today?
Yeah, that's
Does that about sum it up?
I think that about sums it up. I mean, we're at 39 minutes.
That's a good place to end.
I think so. Trying to think.
So if
Closing thoughts
if-
then. Gentlemen,
if you had an alien,
gentlemen, you have your closing statements today.
if you had an alien encounter, what would you do?
Oh, that's a great closing.
They try to
question for
abduct
the
you.
pod.
What do you say? What do you?
Wow.
Maybe this is what this podcast should be: is
Really equipping
how?
the saints
Yeah,
for
we
the
want to equip the
ministry
saints for the
of-
ministry of the gospel. How do you respond to an alien encounter?
Yeah. Like, am I being
This has
beamed
gone
up?
off the deep end, but yeah,
Wow.
If I'm being beamed up,
yeah, they're
I'm
about to
probably
beam
terrified. I'm probably terrified.
you up. Yeah, what are you
And
doing?
then,
then?
honestly,
What are you gonna say?
yeah, I just start praying at that point.
Yeah.
That
You got it.
they don't kill me. They don't.
I think we were talking about this before the pod. Can I just say what I'm going to do? I'd start doing what you said if you got put into prison.
Go
I'd start
crazy.
acting crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
yeah.
I'd start
Whoa.
foaming at the mouth. I'd start just crawling on the ground
I'm
like
gonna
an
start-
animal
Yeah.
and hope that they just say, oh, this guy's
It's a weird
crazy.
one.
Maybe
Helpless.
pee my pants or just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just something crazy.
Right.
And
Right.
hopefully they just let me.
I would start praying.
Maybe
in the
you just
spirit.
start-
I'm praying.
Just
in
start
the
speaking
spirit.
in tongues.
I'm praying in the spirit.
Yeah.
I'm praying. I'm rebuking in
You
the
know what I
name of
bet?
Jesus.
Yeah. I bet if you do your alien voice, they'll leave you alone.
No, you're the one that I'm being abducted, not me.
We are cutting all of your things out.
I think they'll leave you alone if you do that.
They're like, okay, we're gone.
They'll
we're,
just-
we're going back.
They'll
Going
be
back
so
to the other
cringed
dimension.
out, they'll leave.
Well, okay. So end times.
Actually, speaking of end times, it's the end of this podcast right now.
Well,
We're gonna do an end times podcast. At
We
some
will.
point.
Well, that deserves. If
Yeah.
we do talk about that, that deserves a whole.
You'll
pod.
probably be not there that week.
yeah. You guys do it on a week.
You guys can do.
Oh, wait,
that.
he's not there. Or I'm not there.
He's not there.
Oh, really?
No,
Yeah.
I
It'll be a
enjoy
week.
talking about the end times.
No, you don't.
I do.
No, you don't.
I
No,
don't
you don't.
enjoy talking about all the different ways that conjecture can be brought into it, and different
Dude,
interpretations. I like to just go with what is clear in Scripture and then kind of
Oh,
leave
100.
the
I think-
rest
But
up
you don't
into-
I
like
totally
to-
agree. I think Scripture's really clear on it.
Yeah, see, and
But you don't like to hypothesize or look out into the world and go,
Yes.
that might be related
I don't try to
that.
correlate current events to.
Which is really interesting. Have you read Mark Driscoll's latest?
Yeah,
Piece of
Mark's
writing?
really getting.
Wait,
He's
what
fully
was it?
convinced.
He's
He wrote like a book.
Yeah.
It's a small book that he just released about why the war in Israel is
Yeah.
the
And you know what,
telltale
Mark
sign Jesus is coming
Driscoll,
back.
Mark Driscoll, we love you, and you know what?
Yeah.
you
I
you
mean-
can be a guest on the podcast. This podcast, by the way, is sponsored by Real Faith Ministries.
Okay.
but-
You're so funny.
but
I mean,
yeah, no, sorry. It's,
you disagree with
sorry.
that?
Very much so.
You disagree that Israel?
Let's not get into this. We're too
Well,
far in.
No, this is
we'll do
great,
this as
though.
another full pod.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll save
All
it
right.
for the
We'll save it for another
Okay,
section.
so stay tuned to the next episode, or maybe an episode a few years from now, and you could hear Griffin and I disagree about end times. We disagree about eschatology.
Let's not totally get
And then
into
Dakota
it, but-
can be the middleman. Or
That's
actually,
true.
you'd probably be on more on his side, wouldn't you?
No, I have points that are on his side and I have points that are on your side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I
can't
think it's
talk-
fun to think like this,
Yeah.
but in reality,
point to me like this.
I'm more like.
Well, describe what thinking like this is.
See, he's really trying to get
Yes,
follow-ups here.
he
He's
really
really
is.
trying to make this an
Well, no,
end-time
because you're being
podcast.
ambiguous and then you're pointing
is
the
not an
finger.
end-time-
Let's
I
get
think
to.
it's fun to say, yes, the Bible talks about this, and this could be happening in Israel, and actually look at this, look at these points that are happening.
Right.
It can relate to. I think that's fun. However,
Yeah.
I don't put a lot of stock into it. I just think it's
Sure.
fun.
You think? Okay.
I don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
I lean more on the. I don't even want to
yeah.
seriously go. Yeah, this is related to that.
100%.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think I've ever said it's like seriously.
I don't think you have either, and we've
Yeah.
had this discussion before.
Yeah. But speaking of end times, I think all good things do come to
Come
an
to an
end,
end.
including
This podcast
this
is
age
coming
that
to
we're
an end.
currently living in. One day Jesus will return.
Yeah.
When he will, nobody knows the day or the hour.
Yeah.
Only the
But we
Father
do
in
know the
heaven.
signs.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Jesus spent a whole chapter of the Bible
You're really
sharing all
trying
the
to bring it
signs.
back.
I'm trying to end this podcast.
Yeah.
And he brings it back.
Didn't he though?
But
think
there
we
is
end it.
an end to all
That's good.
things, including
This podcast is ending.
Yes.
Thanks for listening. I hope you feel encouraged by this off the rails discussion.
Yeah, we love you.
guys.
And share it. And should they share this podcast? I think there are definitely things.
Keep this one for yourself.
No, I think. Hey,
Maybe-
listen. You
maybe
know
don't
what they
share
say?
this podcast.
The artists they say, one for me, one for you.
Yeah,
You know?
that's
So
right.
this movie was for the people. This one was for me. I think this one was for the people, but there were also a lot of parts of it that were.
That's true. And you really are unhinged at night. We've discovered this.
And yeah, we'll never do another podcast past 7.
Well, I think we should maybe experiment with the morning pod. That might be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Anyways,
Awesome. Thanks for
people
listening.
don't even need to hear this. God bless.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Love you guys.